You know, when we think of Hollywood's golden age, we picture the glamour, the perfect studio facades. But behind all that, something else was going on. A hidden world of mystics and seekers was thriving. And this secret world? Well, it secretly shaped the lives and even the destinies of some of the biggest stars the world has ever known.
So, what if that iconic sign, the symbol of the Dream Factory, looked down not on a city of stars, but on a secret mystical colony? A place where Hollywood's biggest names weren't just playing roles, they were searching for something real. For 8 legendary stars of the silent era, this wasn't some what if. This was their reality. Their secret spiritual lives were a story the studios worked for decades to bury. And tonight, we're finally unearthing it.
Okay, so our story kicks off in the Hollywood Hills, way back in 1912, with a utopian community called Crotona. You have to picture this. It was a world unto itself. You had residents in white robes, studying ancient wisdom, all happening right in the shadow of the brand new film industry. Now, the philosophy at the heart of all this was theosophy. Think of it as a blend of Eastern religions and Western mysticism. It brought these huge ideas like reincarnation and karma to Hollywood, concepts that would become either a salvation or a curse for the stars who got tangled up in them. And this one philosophy, it led to 2 radically different fates. For our first star, it became nothing short of a prison. For the second, it was a desperate, all-consuming quest for meaning, right at the height of his superstardom. On one hand, we have Mary Astor, trapped in a gilded cage with theosophy used as the bars. And on the other, Rudolph Valentino, the world's biggest heartthrob, using those exact same beliefs to try and escape the emptiness of his own fame. For Mary Astor, this was never a choice. Not at all. Her father used theosophy to justify absolute control over her. He isolated her in Crotona, took every single penny she earned, and claimed it was all just dictated by cosmic law. And the ultimate irony? Years later, she would win an Oscar for a film called The Great Lie. You can't make this stuff up. Thinking back on her childhood of so-called enlightened parenting, she said it best herself. The most dangerous prisons aren't always built with bars. For her, a philosophy that was supposed to be about liberation had been twisted into a tool of total enslavement. Now, while Mary was trying to escape, Rudolph Valentino was desperately trying to get in. Here he was, the world's most desired man, but all that fame just left him feeling hollow. So he started collecting mystical texts, attending seances, and even married a fellow occultist named Natasha Ramboa, which absolutely horrified the studio. After they broke up, his search just got more intense. But then he died, suddenly at just 31 years old, leaving this world with his biggest questions still unanswered. So now let's see what happens when the element of choice comes into the picture. For our next 2 stars, their own personal choices led to 2 completely opposite destinies, one of genuine enlightenment and one of endless, consuming darkness. You've got Gloria Swanson, who freely chose these beliefs and found a lifetime of peace, and then, in stark contrast, you have Bela Lugosi. He was drawn to the darker side of the occult, and the shadows he explored on screen, well, they ultimately consumed his real life.
I mean, Gloria Swanson's commitment was just extraordinary. At her peak in the 20s, she dives into theosophy. In the 30s, when the studios basically told her to choose between her career and her beliefs, she chose her beliefs. And it was that spiritual grounding that later fueled her incredible comeback in Sunset Boulevard. She kept up her practice for 60 years, right to the very end.
On the total other side of the coin, we have Bela Lugosi. And you know, his signature role felt so powerful for a reason. His Dracula was terrifyingly real, because Lugosi himself had touched genuine darkness. See, Lugosi didn't just research the occult for the role, he lived it. He grew up in Hungary surrounded by all this folklore and superstition. And in Hollywood, he pursued some of the darker practices, holding regular seances. He channeled that authentic belief right into Dracula, but the role completely typecast him. He became so identified with that darkness that in the end, he was actually buried in his Dracula cape. Okay, so we've seen imprisonment, a quest, enlightenment, and destruction. But for our final group of stars, mysticism wasn't really about finding power or answers. It was simply about survival, a sanctuary from the crushing glare of Hollywood.
And at the center of this group was a woman named Alla Nazimova. She came from Russia, bringing all of her mystical traditions with her. She created this famous hotel on Sunset Boulevard called the Garden of Allah, and it became a sanctuary. She hosted these salons where stars like Greta Garbo were first introduced to these ideas. Nazimova was the bridge, really, connecting Hollywood's most sensitive souls to this hidden world.
And each of these stars was running from a different kind of pain. Greta Garbo was looking for an escape from the sheer emptiness of fame. Ramon Navarro was hiding from a world that condemned him. The original It Girl, Clara Bow, was fleeing from some unspeakable childhood trauma. And Nazimova herself, she was escaping the tight confines of conventional morality.
And for each of them, their spiritual practices looked a little different. Garbo's famous line, "I want to be alone," well, that wasn't social anxiety, it was a 5-decade meditation practice. Ramon Navarro, who was a gay Catholic, used mysticism to try and reconcile his faith with his identity. And Clara Bow, after a devastating breakdown, literally fled to a theosophical community just to heal.
So what's the legacy of this secret colony? Well, it's not one single story. It's really this complex tapestry of human experience, all playing out right there under the Hollywood sign.
The outcome was never, ever guaranteed. The same exact philosophy that imprisoned one star or destroyed another gave others genuine enlightenment. And for so many, it was just a quiet sanctuary that frankly allowed them to survive.
And that's really the hidden truth here, isn't it? Behind every one of those perfect studio images was a real human being, a person grappling with fame and trauma, searching for something real in an industry built entirely on illusion.
Which leaves us with a final question, one that resonates far beyond old Hollywood. It's a question these stars spent their lives trying to answer, and one we still ask ourselves today. In a world of illusions, how do any of us find what is real?